I'm Jaffe Jones, the author of Eat Vegan on $4 a Day. I'm also the veg coach and the broccoli rep, because who else is the broccoli rep? I wrote this book because I got so tired of seeing all these stories on the news that said you can't eat well on a budget. And I've eaten this way pretty much the last 31 years of my life, and I just felt it was important to get some other information out there to balance the fair and balanced reporting that we see all over the news. I spent 18 years as a TV investigative and consumer reporter. I started running at the age of 28, about 31 years ago. And these are just some of the awards that I have won, or the medals that I've won recently since I started running again. I took a little bit of time off while my kids were young, and they didn't have the fancy running strollers that they have now. And it makes it so much easier to maintain your running fitness with these running strollers. So when I adopted, again, because I had gone off for a while, a plant-based diet, and started running again, it was amazing. Like, my times got faster, and I run faster now than I did at the age of 28, which is just so weird. And I feel so much better, and I, in my opinion, look a lot better than I did even when I was running in my late 20s and 30s. So as you might be able to see, I did my first marathon in 2010 and felt like I could keep running. So the energy that you do get from a plant-based diet is truly phenomenal. And I know a number of athletes are now switching to a plant-based diet to enhance their performance, and it's really cool to see that. One of the things I've started doing is a little program I call Real Vegan News You Can Use, because so much of the information out there is ridiculous. It's just not accurate, and it is kind of wild and crazy, some of the stories that cross my computer screen. And here's one that just came to me that drove me slightly nuts, from Shape magazine. Yes, can you see that, Shape magazine? 5 steps to ease into a vegan diet. Why skipping the butcher may be the best thing you can do for your health. I appreciate the sentiment and the ideas here, but it gets a little strange. While you may have heard about those non-meat eaters known as vegetarians, there is an extreme sect of them called vegans, or those who not only skip the meat, but also avoid dairy, eggs, and anything that's derived from or even processed using animals or animal products. A sect? Really? You're calling me a member of a sect? I don't think so. A sect, last time I checked a dictionary, usually refers, or most people think it is associated with, a religion. Eating vegan, though it probably should be, and maybe even would be a great religion, is not, the last time I checked. It is a way of eating. It is a lifestyle for some people. They do it for lots of different reasons. For other people, they pick only one reason. Maybe it's animal rights. Maybe it is about health. And for some people like me, it is about both. I generally speak about health because in my experience as a television reporter, I found that nobody was talking much about health, and certainly they weren't getting interviewed on the news. And the animal rights folks, they've had an audience for a long time, often getting on the news when they take off some of their clothes. And I say that with all due respect to television newsrooms, but since I worked in one for the better part of 18 years, I saw these decisions come in almost on a daily, certainly weekly basis. And it was really hard to get any kind of alternative medicine types of stories out there. One of the more successful stories that I was able to get done was a long series called Alternatives to Ritalin. And it was about a doctor who almost 20 years ago was able to get kids off Ritalin by getting rid of some of the junk food in their diet, which was mainly focused on dyes and chemicals and additives that just really seemed to be messing up their behavior. So very cool that at least at some point in my career I was able in television to get some of those stories squeezed in there. Not that I had any hidden agenda, but it seems that a lot of reporters these days do seem to have some kind of stated, somewhat obviously, agenda. But you know, this whole thing of looking at or describing a vegan diet as a sect is just so sad, because it isn't. And it gives people who don't know anything about a vegan diet the wrong impression that you have to be a member of some cult. And let me tell you, I've been accused of being that too, being a member of a cult. Really, you know, when you think about especially as I have, because I have lived with my mom, my aunt, and both sisters having breast cancer. My aunt died of it at the age of 5 when I was 5 in our home, so I saw this up close and personal. And all my life has been focused, not only as a reporter, but just personally, what is the truth about food and exercise? And if somebody really were to show me the research and the evidence to the contrary, I'd be chowing down meat if somebody really could convince me that that was the healthiest thing we ought to be doing for our bodies. And sadly, so many people do believe that because of the misinformation that's out there. So my goal in promoting a vegan diet as a healthy way to live, and certainly the idea that I can do all this exercise and athletic accomplishment for somebody my age, almost 60, I hope goes a long way in really hitting the mainstream media, and as I almost like to say sometimes, the Walmart crowd, and letting them know that this is a very easy, simple way to live. It is not something that you have to become a member of a sect or adhere to some kind of strange principles that are not mainstream. This is so easy. It's so much easier than having your chest cracked open, to heart disease, or having to take insulin twice a day. I mean, I've seen all this in my own family. One of my favorite plant-based doctors is Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and he had a newsletter recently on preventing osteoporosis. He says the National Osteoporosis Foundation estimates that 50% of women and 25% of men over the age of 50 will have an osteoporosis-related fracture during their lifetime. The best protection against osteoporosis is a combination of weight-bearing exercise and excellent nutrition. Bone strength is directly related to muscle strength, and the most effective way to strengthen bones is to protect against an osteoporosis-related fracture and increase the muscle strength. So as a certified personal trainer, that is often what I do with clients, no matter what they're eating. I always try and at least quiz them about what they're eating and get them to keep a food journal, because in the most successful weight loss studies, keeping a record of what you eat is really an eye-opening experience. So, back strengthening exercises, he says, are especially beneficial, providing lasting protection against spinal fractures in women who are at risk of osteoporosis. And this really reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is, core is king. So you should be doing lots of core exercises to strengthen the back muscles. And these can be just little crunches like this where you don't move very much, you're lying flat on the ground, and really just keeping your eyes focused on the sky and just coming up a little bit. And the more you do core exercises, the more you find that you use your core in everyday living. I really notice this when I'm really into my core routine. I get out of bed in the morning using my core muscles instead of propping myself up on my elbow, which sometimes then can tear out my historically weak scapular muscle in my shoulder. So for a lot of women, especially as they get older, I know my mom had this experience of having to have shoulder surgery because she had a frozen shoulder as a result of not exercising her back and her shoulders. So these kinds of things are very, very common. So Dr. Fuhrman has a great website. I think for some of the information you have to pay for it. So he does still have quite a bit of information and information for free. One of the things he talks about in this newsletter is that whole plant foods are the best foods for bones. Studies show that individuals with the highest consumption of fruit and vegetables have the strongest bones. Go figure. And what does he say? Beans, seeds, and greens. A diet full of natural plant foods provides the calcium and other bone-building phytochemicals and micronutrients required to build strong bones. Green vegetables in particular are rich calcium sources. For example, 1 4-ounce serving of steamed kale has just as much calcium as 1 cup of milk. Broccoli, bok choy, spinach, sesame seeds, and garbanzo beans are also excellent calcium sources. Furthermore, the body absorbs over 50% of the calcium in green vegetables compared to only 32% of the calcium in milk. Now I just want to show you, this is his newsletter that I printed off, and starting here and then continuing on to the next page, it's a full page of research that backs up everything he says. And that's one of the things, when you go to the reputable websites like Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine or Dr. John McDougall's website, you can go to other parts of their site which will show all the research. And it's just very cool to see that, you know, they're not just coming up with this as a pipe dream or wishful thinking. This is stuff that really works for a lot of people, and I know it's worked for me. I recently fell at a 5K race, and I had a friend who was there. She is a physical therapist, and I had tripped over a speed bump at the beginning of a very crowded race that actually was a 5K and a 1 miler at the same time. The races were going 2 different directions, and a lot of people who were coming up behind me said, "Oh, thanks for falling, because we would have if you hadn't." Glad to do my duty. But my friend, who was the physical therapist, said you should have broken your elbow, your knee, and your toe, based on the amount of gushing blood that was all over the place. They called EMS, and after 5 minutes, the folks hadn't gotten there. I said, you know what? I've never not finished a 5K, so I'm going to get up and finish the race, and I'll see you at the finish line. And I still placed second in my age group. And they patched me up. I didn't need any stitches, but everybody was so amazed that I could finish the race, and that my recovery from that was really quite rapid. And I have very little remaining scars, just a little bit of road rash there. So a plant-based diet is amazing. And what both the EMS crew and my physical therapist friend said, if you had any signs of osteoporosis, you so would have broken at least one of those bones. So this stuff really does work. And I hope today's edition of Vegan News You Can Use, real vegan news you can use, has been helpful. And I am Ellen Jaffe Jones, the author of Eat Vegan on $4 a Day. I hope you'll find me either on Facebook or Twitter. And we have lots of tips and ideas, and people submit their questions there. And if you have ideas for this Real Vegan News segment, you certainly can submit that there, and I will check out your news story. I'm always looking for different story ideas, so feel free to send them my way. I also have a website, vegcoach.com, and you can find me and my book and anything else you might want to know about me on that website. Gotta run.